Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I am going to be talking about the solo career of one of my favorite bass players. I am talking about Bruce Foxton, formerly of The Jam and Stiff Little Fingers. Of course, I got into Bruce Foxton back when I got into The Jam, which was about early 1978, and I followed The Jam just 100% right until they broke up. Of course, I've been a fan ever since. Now, Bruce went solo, then he joined Stiff Little Fingers when they reunited, and he was in that band for 15 years, and that was almost double the amount of time that he was in The Jam. Currently, he's in a band called From The Jam, which goes around and they play songs from The Jam or by The Jam. And the guitar player singer of that band is Russell Hastings, and he'll enter into this in just a little while. But let's start with Bruce's first solo album. The Jam had split up, and I believe in 1983 he put out his first single, which was called Freak. And I'm sorry, Bruce, it sucked. It was horrible. I thought it was a terrible song. And I'm being honest here. I am absolutely being honest. But the B-side, Writings on the Wall, was amazing. It was very emotional and powerful. So I didn't give up on him because I knew that he had it in him. I just knew that Freak was a freak accident. Somebody decided to release it. But it was a top 40 hit, but I think he was sort of gliding on the popularity of The Jam at that point. But when he put out his first album, Touch Sensitive, in 1984, I was correct in thinking that he did have a lot of really good songs in it. Of course, all the Jam fans are, oh my God, that doesn't sound like The Jam. Yeah, because it's not The Jam. Paul Weller went off and formed the Style Council, and they complained about that too. Now, this is more of an 80s pop album. Now, unfortunately, it has the song Freak on it, and that's the first song on the album. So if that's the first song you heard and you stopped listening, I would totally understand. But the rest of this album is really nice pop. Now, when The Jam first broke up, I had read, I think in Trouser Press, that Bruce Foxton was going to get together with Ed Bazalgette and Steve Smith from the Vapors and form a new band. Of course, that never happened. But what he did do on Touch Sensitive is he got together with a couple former members of the Hitmen, Pete Glenister and Stan Shaw. And the album is just a nice batch of 80s pop songs. It Makes Me Wonder, SOS My Imagination, and it's got a remix of Writings on the Wall. I prefer the B-side mix, and they didn't add that to the CD, which is kind of a bummer, but they did add some other B-sides to the CD. This is Touch Sensitive. It's very 80s, but unfortunately it just didn't catch on. Freak was a top 40 hit, but none of the other songs were, and they deserved it so much more. It was a nice little pop album. Like I said, Pete Glenister, Stan Shaw from the Hitmen. I mean, those guys right there are great sidemen, and it's a really good album, and you all know me. I love 80s music, so definitely something to check out. But then after that, a few years later, he joined Stiff Little Fingers, and he played on a bunch of albums with them. But after Stiff Little Fingers, he got together with former Jam drummer Rick Buckler and his little band who were performing Jam songs. Is Rick Buckler on drums and Russell Hastings on guitar and vocals. Now, they brought Bruce Foxton into that, so of course it was 2/3 of the Jam. They would go out and they would play Jam songs, and they would tour for this. In fact, they have come to the U.S., but generally speaking, I think they tour the U.K. and they do very well because they're playing the Jam songs like they played them, and it's really wonderful. I've seen videos online. I've never seen them live, but Rick Buckler quit, I think, probably about 4 or 5 years into that. So then they brought in Mark Brzezinski from Big Country. And then, of course, that was a powerhouse of a group going out and doing Jam songs. But what they did is they wrote a bunch of originals, and they went into the studio and they released an album under the name Bruce Foxton called Back in the Room. And right there you see it. There's Mark, Bruce, and Russell. And this kind of blew my mind a little bit because, everyone's going to compare it to the Jam, which it doesn't sound like the Jam. I mean, Russell Hastings, he'd been doing the Paul Weller role in From the Jam. I don't want to say an impersonator, but, the same range, same pronunciation, that type of thing. He'd been doing that for so long. Of course, he's going to sound a little bit like Paul Weller when he goes in and he does their originals, but they're not impersonating the Jam. They're making an album for 2012. And I have to admit, this and the following albums, they have quite a few holy shit moments. And you may be thinking, Schnee, what's a holy shit moment? It's when I've got the headphones on and I'm listening and just a chord change happens or a great hook. And I just go, holy shit. because it's so good. And these next three Bruce Foxton albums, they've got a lot of those moments. This is a wonderful album. Paul Weller is actually on a couple songs on the album. He doesn't sing. He plays either piano or guitar, but it's the first time they've played together since, 82, when the Jam split. So it's like 30 years. And it's really, really a wonderful album full of hooks. There are some nods to the Jam. There's nods to, soul music, but it's not post-punk or punk or whatever. It's just a great pop album. I don't know if anyone in the From the Jam camp is going to be offended for me calling them a great pop band, but they are a great pop band. Even though it's under the name Bruce Foxton, it's actually the three guys at the time who were in From the Jam. Now, Bruce Foxton doesn't really take lead vocals, so it's mostly Russell Hastings. I've read things out there comparing it to Paul Weller. It's not Paul Weller. It's Bruce Foxton, Russell Hastings, and Mark Brzezinski. I don't know how to pronounce Mark's last name. Like I've told you in many videos, I don't speak proper English. But this is absolutely a wonderful album. But the awesomeness of that album didn't prepare me for the awesomeness of the next album called Smash the Clock that came out in 2016. This has Paul Weller on it. It also has Wilco Johnson on it. And this was actually released under the names Bruce Foxton and Russell Hastings because Mark Brzezinski had left by this time. Still an absolutely wonderful album, jam-packed with a bunch of holy shit moments. Really wonderful. Lots of great music on this. It doesn't have the soul of Paul Weller. It doesn't have the punk edge of the Jam. It's just a bunch of nice original songs. I wish that From the Jam would actually be their own opening act and come out and do all originals and then come back out and do Jam songs, because both of these albums so far are absolutely tremendous. Back in the Room and Smash the Clock, really, really wonderful albums. But that didn't prepare me for The Butterfly Effect, which was released under yet a different name. The first album was released under Bruce Foxton. The second album was released under Bruce Foxton and Russell Hastings. This one is released under Foxton and Hastings. So if you're going to try to track these down, look under all three artists' name. Butterfly Effect came out at the end of 2022. This is incredible. It takes all the greatness of the first two albums and just steps it up a couple notches. Lots of holy shit moments on this album. Really, really wonderful collection of songs. I don't want to keep saying this, but it's not the Jam and it's not Paul Weller. It's Bruce Foxton and Russell Hastings. A lot of people are going to say, oh, he sounds like Paul Weller. Look, that's just the way it is. They're not trying to sound like, hey, this is what the Jam would sound like in 2022. No, they're just playing great pop music. And I highly recommend all three of these albums, Back in the Room, Smash the Clock, and The Butterfly Effect. They are absolutely amazing albums, just great pop albums. And they do have heart and soul. They're not soulful like Paul Weller, but Russell Hastings does have that in his voice. In fact, I'm going to stop talking about him. You know why? Because I put together a medley featuring songs from all these albums, including Touch Sensitive. I had to start the medley off with Freak, since that's his most popular song. But once you get past that, you hear a couple of the 80s songs, and then you kick right into the stuff he did with Russell Hastings. Incredible, great pop music. I love this stuff so much. I'm not going to diss Paul Weller at all. I'm a huge Style Council fan, and I really enjoy Paul Weller's solo stuff, but I actually like the Bruce Foxton solo records more. I really do love these. So sit back, relax, give this medley a listen, and I will see you on the other side.
My
right, that's it. I hope that this video and this medley inspires you to check out the music of Bruce Foxton and Russell Hastings, and Foxton and Hastings. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, to ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.